Good morning, everyone. Hello, hello. Hold on, let me turn off that. There we go. Let's get to the correct scene. There it is. Whew, happy Wednesday, folks. Slendy, good to see you, my man. Welcome in. Justin, hello, hello. Good to see you again. Y'all, what's up? Happy Wednesday to you. Sorry if my voice is a bit scratchy today. I might have streamed too much this week with stream on Monday, extra stream on Monday, extra stream on Tuesday, and then I was at a pinball tournament last night and I was like yelling above loud music for many hours. So my voice is like worn out. So you'll have to bear with the scratchy, gravelly nature of it today. Melissa, good to see you. Leisha, hello, hello. Y'all, welcome in. Thank you for being here. Raffy getting in early. Alright, Raffy. Y'all, we're gonna do it a little bit differently today with how to pick our books, because I liked the dice rolling. I thought it was really fun, but it was just, you know, long time viewers were just not getting like their suggestions read at all just because of bad dice rolls. Raffy, you know what I'm talking about. So I figure we're just gonna go back to, I'm just gonna pull them. I'm just gonna ask for suggestions every time we finish one, and I'll just pick one I see in chat. I feel like that's just the best way to handle it. Raffy says a dice like to play games. Exactly. Also, Melissa, thank you for the tiny tiny. I appreciate you. You know the drill. Which one though? I think this one. Leisha, we did do The Hobbit early on in this format, but it's been a while. Totally fine to do it again. Minister of Yeats, good to see you. I still have your 3 on the list that we just never got to, so I will make sure we grab at least one of those today. Probably more. But y'all, you know the drill, right? So let's hop into it, huh? We'll just get right to it. So we have Moving Pictures by Terry Pratchett. Oh wait, yeah, there was a question. Hold on, where is it? Justin, you said, Alex, do you still read when you're busy writing and streaming? If so, what are you reading these days? I do still read, just very slowly. The 2 books that I'm going through right now are Joe Abercrombie's The Devils, it's his newest book, and reading The Fellowship of the Ring, very slowly, but that's how I like enjoying that one. You know, I like to take that nice and slow. Thank you for asking, Justin. What about you, my guy? And Raffy, what are y'all reading? What are you reading right now? I can tell you, right now we're going to be reading Terry Pratchett. At least the opening lines. Does Fellowship read as slow as you think it does? Yeah, but like, I savor it, honestly. Oh, who was that? Minister, thank you very much for the tiny trek. That's like a new one. I haven't seen that. Thank you, my man. Appreciate you. I think that counts for at least 2 goblins, right? There you go. Maybe a third. Throw a third in there, I think. I think that's fair. Hooded Crow, good to see you. Michael, welcome in. Yeah, Michael, I'm normally live very early. My regular streaming time is 7 a.m. Central, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So that's actually what I do more usually. So welcome in, my guy. Glad to have you. Alright, so y'all, if you're new to this format, basically what I'm going to do is we're going to pick books from your favorite books, and then I'm going to read their opening lines and then talk about it from the perspective of an author. So we have our first one here, Moving Pictures by Terry Pratchett. One of the Terry Pratchett books I've not read, so we need to, it's going to be fun. This will be a first time for me. Hooded Crow, thank you for stopping by. It's good to see you. How you doing? How you been? Justin, you're looking to start The Devils later this year? Oh man, you'll enjoy it. It's really good. If you like Abercrombie. Slendy, you're reading book 1 of Discworld. All right. I don't even know what book one of Discworld is, honestly. I've always just jumped into the middle of the series because I know they're not really chronological. But anyway, y'all, I don't hit my microphone. Moving Pictures by Terry Pratchett, our first one. Interesting cover. Confession, I've never been a fan of the mass market covers for Terry Pratchett books. I don't know, they don't work for me. They're their own thing at this point, so they're kind of beyond like my consideration of if it's good art or not, because there's so many and they're so ubiquitous. But personally, they've just never done it for me. The the writing though, the writing very much does. So I think this is the beginning. It doesn't have a prologue or a chapter 1 indication, but it is page 1. That's a pretty good indication. So let's see what we got here, folks. Moving Pictures by Terry Pratchett. Watch. This is space. It's sometimes called the final frontier. Except that, of course, you can't have a final frontier because there'd be nothing for it to be a frontier 2, but as frontiers go, it's pretty penultimate. Very Terry Pratchett right out the gate. And against the wash of stars a nebula hangs, vast and black, one red giant gleaming like the madness of gods. Boy. And then the gleam is seen as the glint in a giant eye, and it is eclipsed by the blink of an eyelid, and the darkness moves, and a flipper and great Atuan star turtle swims onward through the void. Alright. Terry Pratchett, going right into it. I love, you never know where his books are going to start, right? You never know what direction he's going to take you. Oh wait, if I do this, does the... Yeah, image states. Okay, 6, so I can actually read while looking at the camera. What an amazing concept. It's so interesting. Terry Pratchett is so unique, man. He makes a Star Trek joke in the beginning of a fantasy book, right? What a strange way to go about it, but like respect. I don't even know how to evaluate this, honestly. He just gets right into the comedy of it. Yeah, I figured that's pretty much the case, Raffi. A lot of Terry Pratchett's beginnings don't have much to do with the actual book, the actual story, I suppose. But I'll tell you, in Terry Pratchett fashion, it's surprising and it's fun. It doesn't drag you into the plot too much right off the bat, so I'm not asking questions that I want answered. There's not a strong hook in here, but if you're this deep in Terry Pratchett's world, you're already hooked, right? All right, so that's the first one. I mean, I don't know what to say for Terry Pratchett other than it's good. Y'all, so I guess that we're going to do it a new way now. So when I finish a book, we need a code word, right? Justin, you're ready to go. Let me put my phone on Do Not Disturb. Justin, you had it locked and ready to go. We need a code word or something. I guess I'm just going to say drop titles in chat. When I say that, y'all, the first title that I see appear in chat is the one we're going to go with. Well, I guess not first. We'll pick one from them. But for the moment, Justin got in with Forgotten by R.T. Heath. I've not heard of this. Let's pull it up. We'll grab our cover here, and we'll grab our sample. There's a lot of bad things you can say about Amazon. But it's pretty sick. You can just read samples like this. You said you think the sample's broken? It looks like it's working for me. I got text here and I got a cover, so that's all I need. All right. So I'm not familiar with this author or this title, but here we are. Forgotten by R.T. Heath. Interesting cover. I think there's like a dog going on here. I think a little bit hard to see though, but got a nice dog friend. Always a good start. Chapter 1, Darkness. Reaching out like an arm, the rope grabbed the small wooden boat, as if to pry it from the river's white fangs. But the savage river fought back, not wanting to relinquish its prey. The rope drew itself taut, halting the vessel's flow with a jerk, and yet the boat's fare did not wake. Inch by inch, the rope was able to extract its prize from the river's rabid bite. Wood met dirt with a thud. Those on the other end of the rope gathered round to peer into their catch. Much to their dismay, there was no courier with goods or foodstuff. foodstuffs. Only a sleeping man dressed in rags, clutching onto a cloth-wrapped staff. At the very least, they thought they might relieve him of his craft. It wasn't seaworthy enough for the waters he traveled anyway, and they did technically save his life. The band set themselves the task of trying to remove the stranger without waking him. As difficult as that task would normally be, it was more so because the man was soaked to the bone from the river, or so they thought. However, as they began to gently lift him, the lantern holder cried for them to cease. That which made their hands slip ran thicker than water. Okay, so it's blood, probably. Interesting. I'm immediately thinking, it's like I'm getting like fantasy vibes from the cover. But then it describes what seems to be the mechanism of like almost a crane lifting a boat out of the water, which is certainly possible in a fantasy realm. Just felt a little bit advanced technology-wise, but I don't think we fully, it could be something as simple as they just let the boat drift into a rope, pulled a slip knot tight, and then lifted it out or something like that. Very scene setting. Opening with this, a little bit passive voice perhaps, which is not to my taste. But yeah, I am interested. I feel like this dude's not sleeping normally, right? Like it feels like you would have woken up from these events. So I think that there's something more going on there. Also, I feel like any random person you come across dressed in rags and carrying a staff is probably someone you need to think twice before messing with, perhaps. But here we are. I also like that they did technically save his life. They're justifying it to themselves. Interesting. Yeah, I would like. I tend to like an opening that is going to make me ask I'm asking a few questions here. There's a few hooks in this, Also, book's got a dog on the cover, so instant upgrade on one score by that. Any day. All right, well, thank you for submitting that, Justin. I appreciate that. That's Forgotten by R.T. Heath. All right, drop the titles. What are we doing next, y'all? I will pick one. Yeah, I think that's a good way to go. I think Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein. I recognize that one. That's been on our list for a while, and it hasn't been picked. The dice were mean to it. So let's pull that up. Ignore the fact that I could not type for anything. Thanks for being here today. I appreciate you hanging out with me. Always a fun stream. Interesting cover. Oh, I love the way the title is played with into the background. Like more normal font going on here, and then Frankenstein is like stitched in like really poorly. Oh, it's like over a wound too. It's like this. I think this is technically fabric, but it sure does have like wound energy down in here. It looks like a slash, a gash that's being sewn shut. That's pretty cool. That's slightly gross, but very cool imagery. I guess we can pull the title there. Thomas Carver, my friend, welcome in. Good to see you. Happy Wednesday to you. Hope you're doing well. All right, let's dive into this one by The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein by Kirsten White. Another one that I haven't heard of. I'll see saying that a lot, y'all. There's so many books in the world. So many. We're so spoiled with good books these days. It's pretty sick. Oh, look at this. I love. Is it like a sewing needle here separating the also buys? That's pretty sick. I'm kind of obsessed with this title art, I suppose we could say. The way Frankenstein is just stitched in is super cool. I love it. Michaela Reeds, welcome in. Your favorite's Immortal Dark by Tigest Germa. It's another one I think I've not heard of. I like it. Well, when I open for new titles after this one, please feel free to suggest it. If I could speak. All right, here we go, folks. The next one is The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein. It's an interesting title. I'm very interested. Chapter 1, To Be Weak is Miserable. Lightning clawed across the sky, tracing veins through the clouds and marking the pulse of the universe itself. Dang, that's a good opening line right there, man. Holy cow. Lightning clawed across the sky, tracing veins through the clouds and marking the pulse of the universe itself. You think the second time I read it, I'd do better than the first time, but apparently not. How about the third? Lightning clawed across the sky, tracing veins through the clouds and marking the pulse of the universe itself. I sighed happily as the rain slashed the carriage windows, and thunder rumbled so loudly we could not even hear the wheels bump when the dirt lane met the cobblestones at the edge of the Ingolstadt. Justine trembled beside me like a newborn rabbit, burying her face in my shoulder. Another bolt lit our carriage with bright white clarity before rendering us temporarily deaf with a clap of thunder so loud the windows threatened to loosen. "How can you laugh?" Justine asked. I had not realized I was laughing until that moment. I stroked her dark hair where strands dangled free from her hat. Justine hated loud noises of any type, slamming doors, storms, shouting, especially shouting. But I had made certain she had endured none of that in the past 2 years. It was so odd that our separate origins, similar in cruelty though differing in duration, had had such opposite outcomes. Justine was the most open and loving and genuinely good person I had ever known. And I was, well, not like her. I like it. Immediately I am enamored. This is subjective. The author has done an incredible job, right? It's a very good opening. I'm also a sucker for period pieces. The atmosphere here is great. The writing's really good right off the bat. Let's pick a few parts why it stands out. Aside from the fact that it's just a solid opening. Okay, I'm assuming it's some sort of a Frankenstein retelling, something similar, adjacent. So starting with lightning clawing across the sky is just like the most perfect way to do that. But it's not just like a descriptive line of like, ooh, it was a dark and stormy night. They wrap it up. Author's what? Kirsten White. So Kirsten White wraps it up with marking the pulse of the universe itself. I really like that. Like that ties the theme of kind of like a Frankenstein-like story to a larger like cosmic perspective almost. It's a beautiful, dramatic, like ethereal line while being relatively grounded and feeling an appropriate opening. That's a clever opening line. I'm a big fan of that. And then this one's purely subjective, but I just like the atmosphere we set up next. Riding in a carriage through an intense storm. Big fan. But I really liked, where was it? There was a certain line in here I wanted to flag. I stroked her dark hair where strands dangled free from her hat. Justine hated loud noises of any type. Slamming doors, storms, shouting, especially shouting. That repetition of it is just such a great hint at something more, right? It sends your brain off thinking like, oh boy, but why especially shouting? And personally, I'm just like, oh, that's sad, man. That feels like some trauma, some abuse we're hinting at there. That's pretty rough, but done eloquently. Very good line there. And then this next line just really stood out to me as well, because it just feels like a classic like Jane Austen-esque line of it was so odd that our separate origins, similar in cruelty though differing in duration, had such opposite outcomes. That feels like one of those tricky, complex internal structure lines you'd see in Tolkien or Austen or something like that. I dig it. This is good vibes. Objectively, not good vibes. It's a dark and traumatic opening, but I'm a fan of it. Rock on, dude. Also, it kind of makes more sense with the chapter title, "To Be Weak is Miserable." So, hey, I'm a fan. The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein. Let me read the back of the book. I want to get the synopsis here. Okay, but not just quotes. The actual synopsis. Elizabeth Lavenza hasn't had a proper meal in weeks. Her thin arms are covered with bruises from her caregiver, and she is on the verge of being thrown into the streets, until she is brought to the home of Victor Frankenstein, an unsmiling, solitary boy who has everything except a friend. Victor is her escape from misery. Elizabeth does everything she can to make herself indispensable, and it works. She is taken in by the Frankenstein family and rewarded with a warm bed, delicious food, and dresses of the finest silk. Okay, so I'm getting kind of like typical, like almost like romantic-y vibes from it, but I think it's going to go a different direction. Soon she and Victor are inseparable, but her new life comes at a price. As the years pass, Elizabeth's survival depends on managing Victor's dangerous temper and entertaining his every whim, no matter how depraved. Behind her blue eyes and sweet smile lies the calculating heart of a girl determined to stay alive no matter the cost, as the world she knows is consumed by darkness. Interesting. Okay, that went a little bit different direction than I expected. For those that have read it, do you know, does it have like romantasy vibes with it? I think when was this published? Because I feel like this predates the romantasy craze. Oh, grade level 7 to 9? Interesting. I was getting a much more mature grade level from that description, at least. Published in 2019, so it's probably, yeah, that's kind of in the romantasy beginnings of it, I think. Not very romantic, says Minister of Yeats. Okay, cool. It's hard to know from that description. Interesting. Oh wow. Oh god, sorry. I missed some serious gifts in here. Melissa, thank you for the safari hat. All the goblins for you, my friend. Gift for gift, all of these for you. Thank you so much. I'm sure I put that on my head and it looked cool, right? And I totally whiffed on that. Some things never change, y'all. Slendy, thank you for the heart me. Minister for the heart me, y'all. Appreciate y'all. You know the drill. Gift for a gift. And yes, that goblin was upside down. He prefers it that way. Megorium, welcome in. Good to see you. You said, Oh, do you know Megorium? Have you read this book? So you're familiar? You're familiar with the story? Interesting. All right. Well, folks, drop your titles. What's the next one? What are we doing? Oh, you were making it up, Meg. Gotcha. All right, good stuff. We have Lock-In by Scalzi, The Institute by Stephen King. Melissa, you do like the dark stuff. Treasure Island. Who wrote Treasure Island? I should know this. I did know this at one point. Robert Louis Stevenson. Yeah, I'm disappointed that I didn't know that. Y'all edit this part of stream out. This never happened, right? All right. Immortal Dark by Tigest Gurma. Melissa, you say the Institute's more YA friendly than King's other books. All right. Well, I'm gonna go with where was it? Lock-In by Scalzi. I love John Scalzi's works. My wife reads all of his stuff instantly, and she tells me about it. And my God, are they ridiculous! I need to read more of it. I just so respect. Interesting. I think this is all. Is this actually? No, that's just like a scientific explanation at the beginning of the book. I need to read more Scalzi. They're all really interesting, and I really respect an author who's just like gonna drop standalone after standalone. You never know what it's gonna be about. His newest book sounds insane. You like the NASA Cup, Justin? Yeah, I had to pull it out today because my wife used to work at NASA, and the pinball tournament I was at last night had like 2 or 3 other current NASA employees at it, and I was just like, man, this is just the NASA hour. So for all of them, we're rocking the Johnson Space Center Cup today. Justin, I think we can safely discredit the nuclear reactor on the moon nonsense. That's a lot of bluster, in my opinion, from having a significant other who worked at NASA and is in the know from the space side of things, and just from other folks I've talked to about it. It's a big, grandiose statement, but doing things like that is actually difficult, and I don't think the actual willpower to get it done's there, but maybe I'm wrong. Let's start with Gateway first. Let's keep Gateway and Artemis going. Meg, that is exactly where I was playing last night. Game Preserve. Yeah, Game Preserve, NASA. Love it. Love the owners, love the place, great community. It sounds like you've been there. Meg, that's awesome. I love that. I forgot that you were local. Jack Ann, welcome in. It is Wednesday. We are here for our opening lines. How you doing, Jack Ann? Good to see you again. A regular stream today. But Thomas, of course there isn't a reactor. Says, of course there isn't a reactor on the moon. The moon's a giant robot. Excuse me, Thomas. The moon is made of cheese. We all know this. What did Wallace and Gromit teach you? Nothing. Yeah, this Scalzi one I have heard is not as happy, right? It's kind of scary, but more of a thriller. Oh, Meg, you should totally go to Game Preserve. It's super cool. Love that place. Big shout out to Game Preserve NASA. Lovely, lovely. They have so many pinball machines, so many arcade cabinets. You're not going to find better value than, I don't know, what is it, $15 for the day, and you can come and go as you please and just play unlimited pinball and arcade cabinets and DDR and stuff. It's incredible. Oh, you're in Paris. Okay, Meg. Gotcha. Part of the Texas European circuit out there. All those European city names scattered through the countryside. All right. Lock In by John Scalzi. Let's do it. Chapter 1. My first day on the job coincided with the first day of the Hayden walkout. And I'm not going to lie, that was some awkward timing. A feed of me walking into the FBI building got a fair amount of play on the Hayden news site and forums. This was not a thing I needed on my first day. Two things kept all of the agora from falling down on my head in outrage. The first was that not every Hayden was down with the walkout to begin with. The first day participation was spotty at best. The agora was split into two very noisy, warring camps between the walkout supporters and the Haydens who thought it was a pointless maneuver given that Abrams-Kettering had already been signed into law. A lot of like backstory going on here. The second was that technically speaking the FBI is law enforcement, which qualified it as an essential service, so the number of Haydens calling me a scab was probably lower than it could have been. Aside from the agora outrage, my first day was a lot of time in HR, filling out paperwork, getting my benefits and retirement plan explained to me in mind-numbing detail. Then I was assigned my weapons, software upgrades, and badge. Then I went home early because my new partner had to testify in a court case and wasn't going to be around for the rest of the day, and they didn't have anything else for me to do. I went home and didn't go into the agora. I watched movies instead. Call me a coward, if you like. My second day on the job started with more blood than I would have expected. Okay, they're just kind of... Scalzi's just kind of setting us up there for that line. Several paragraphs of, like, mundane, nothing really happened. My second day on the job started with more blood than I would have liked. Interesting. So yeah, definitely one of the less funny Scalzi books off the bat. Yeah, I agree with you, Jack Ann. I feel like it would... this is one of Scalzi's, like, first books, though, right? Like way early in his career? No, Old Man's War was his first, I think. Let's see, what's our pub date on this? 2014, so yeah, it's back there. I agree with you, though, Jack Ann. I wouldn't mind it starting with... my second day on the job started with more blood than I would have expected. And then you can give us this more mundane stuff, because you're going to have us be sitting there waiting to be like, but tell me about that second day, though. Like, elaborate on that. Given. This is subjective, and Scalzi sold more books than me, so Scalzi should do what he wants to do, not what I think he should do. I think also I skipped through this like explanation at the beginning. Hayden's syndrome is a name given to a set of continuing physical and mental conditions and disabilities initially brought on by the Great Flu, the influenza, like global pandemic that resulted in the deaths of more than 400 million people worldwide, either through the initial flu-like symptoms, the secondary stage of meningitis like cerebral and spinal inflammation, or through complications arising due to the third stage of the disease, which typically caused complete paralysis of the voluntary nervous system, resulting in lock-in for its victims. So, like, that's a little bit of context I suppose you need for this story. I don't know how much it would relate to that opening paragraph. It certainly gives you some explanation that would make sense. It is a horribly scary situation to be in, you know, locked inside your own body, inside your own head, basically. Michaela, I feel you. I definitely would like it to be a little more punchy off the opening. Because it did take a minute to get there and had a lot of backstory before that. So yeah, I would prefer it to be a little punchier as well. but not bad though. The second day line did get me laughing. Jackie Ann, it said the pub date was 2014 on this one, so it's times. You'll notice, guys, the more we do this, times and trends change with what is acceptable for opening lines, and you'll see that as we go through. I'll try to call out pub dates so we can kind of look at it, because it does play a big factor. Also, yeah, I agree. I agree. Who was that? Slindy, there it is. Using a real disease to create his kind of science fiction world. Yeah, that's a really interesting concept, and I like it because it explains why good science fiction is good science fiction. I write fantasy, and I knew that like science fiction was not a strong part of my aspect of my ability as an author, but then I heard this quote about how to write good science fiction and I knew I was out. So it's good science fiction doesn't predict the car, it predicts the traffic jam. And I heard that and I was just like, yeah, I'm not good enough to predict the traffic jam, man. That's like, you come up with a cool idea that seems futuristic and plausible, and then you take it one step further and find the complications and the outcomes and the effects of it. I'll stick to writing stuff in fantasy medieval worlds. Michaela, thank you for the follow. I appreciate you and welcome in. Welcome to our opening lines stream. Michaela, do you have a favorite book whose opening line you'd like us to look at? If so, let me know. Who is this? Slindy, you said in the world, lock-in is so common that they've created people that let lock-ins use their body. Yeah, I remember that. Erin told me about that when she read it. That's the plot, right? It's a lock-in committing a crime in another person's body. It's a very fascinating mystery, from what I understand. Michaela, all right, you've asked a couple times, so and you're a new follower, so welcome in. Let's do yours. Immortal Dark by Tigest Gurma. I'm sure I'm butchering this name. I keep wanting to read it not how it's written. So apologies in advance. Oh, let's look at this cover, y'all. That is an eerie cover. What does the spine, or the not even spine, the edge text say? No soul can enter without an invitation. Okay, ominous. Immortal Dark by Tigest Gurma. We are showing a sample of the hardcover edition because a sample of the hardcover edition from Little Brown Books for Young Readers you selected is not available. That's fine. As long as it's... Oh, that's cool. I guess this is actually the same font that is on the cover, but for some... The hand centered on the cover was so dominating of an element that I didn't even notice this title text. But seeing it here in black and white, wow, that looks sick. I'm a big fan of that. Imoda? Oh, Immortal Dark. It's spread across 2 pages. I was like, man, is that like Latin or something? Michaela, you said it's dark academia slow burn with a morally gray female main character. All right, rock on. I'm all about that dark academia. Got a prologue, so I always read the first prose of the story, so prologue counts. Anybody else read this one? Are you familiar with Immortal Dark by Tigest Gurma? Also, I've got my window open to let the morning light in, so if I get washed out, y'all, just shout at me about it. We can close that. But until then, I'll enjoy a lovely view. And a lovely book. Jackie Ann, you said, have you done the 5th season by N.K. Jemisin? I think we have. Let me just look at it real quick. I'm just going to pull up the cover. That's not it. Okay, yeah, it's just a book named the same. Oof, that's rough. Wouldn't want to be named the same as a book with 40,000 reviews. I don't know if I've done this. I know it's been mentioned before. I think we have done this. No, maybe not. I don't know. Well, maybe we will. Maybe we will do it. I don't think we've done that one. Isabel, what's up? Welcome in. Pleasure to have you here today. Um, I'm glad you like the music. It is whimsical, right? Whimsical, cozy, chill. Well, welcome in. We are going to read right now the opening lines of Immortal Dark by Tigest Germa, as suggested by Michaela in chat. And I'll give you my perspective on it as an author. So let's get through it. Forgive the squinting. The text is small, and the zoom function doesn't really work too well when I've set up for stream. So let's do it. Prologue. Visible through the candlelit window of Uxley University, a campus as ancient as the creatures it housed, the dean and her vampire sat in private conversation. Love it. Excellent opening line. That hit on like 3 different levels for me. Typically I like to read through consistently, but I gotta stop when something really like grabs me and shakes me. I'm already like, I am subjectively, I love settings and openings. Common knowledge says it's not the best way to open and hook a reader, but I am a big fan of it. So you had me already with the candlelit window of Uxley University, a campus as ancient as the creatures it housed. That's already got my mind going. But then you followed up with the dean and her vampire sat in private conversation. That's pretty sick. I like it. They studied a piece of parchment that detailed the town's layout, and particularly the drop of blood fading near the cathedral. The map was one of the dean's most favorite treasures, handed down her family bloodline before all such tools were destroyed. She never could forgive such a loss. Before the blood disappeared into the yellowed page, it blossomed into 3 letters, spelling the word Mot. Death. Sela Edane is dead, the dean said, exactly an hour after they'd first sat down. Her vampire steepled his fingers and responded in Iraq? For a dead language, it possessed an unnatural amount of life, dancing on the tongue like a stirred snake. Ooh, what a description! What a description! Dancing on the tongue like a stirred snake. Whew! Also, can we talk about how just even reading that aloud, you have to go stirred snake? It even like makes the snake sound, right? Okay, pretty sick. Then it is true. The will of inheritance is in effect. The dean pushed her chair back and went to the window. Night pressed onward from the forest, wrapping long fingers around the Arat towers and their morning spire statues. Golden light poured from the open-mouthed lion statues perched on the stone walls. Each animal came awake to illuminate the entrance halls and corridors. Ooh, that's cool. All right. This is very fun. I'm immediately vibing with the atmosphere and the setting. It's introducing story elements in a good way. I think, honestly, this prologue is so efficiently done that I always say, you guys are going to get tired of hearing it probably, you got to have hooks to make the reader ask a question to keep them coming, right? To keep them reading. This thing hooks so hard in its first sentence that I feel like the rest of the opening doesn't need any more hooks. Like, you got me there. Like, I want to know what's going on with the dean and her vampire in private conversation, but that throws more hooks anyway, man. They're just throwing them out there. It's very interesting. I love the seemingly magic of the map that is almost giving like real-time information about the town. I have questions about that map for sure. But I'm really interested in the university. The university sounds super cool. Like I said, I'm a sucker for setting. This is great. This is awesome. I would have to consider reading this. I read so slow. I got to be really careful about what I put on my to be read list. But all right, Immortal Dark, you've got my attention. I'm gonna read the back cover blurb too because I want to know about more of it. You know. All right, let's see this back cover blurb. It began long before my time, but something has always hunted our family. Again, wow. Tigest Germa just throwing punches with these opening lines, man. Orphaned heiress Keaton Adane grew up far from the arcane society she was born into, where human bloodlines gain power through vampire companionship. When her sister June disappears, Keaton is convinced a vampire stole her, the very vampire bound to their family, the cruel yet captivating Susenyos Sagad. To find June, Keaton must infiltrate the elite Uxley University, where students study to ensure peaceful coexistence between humans and vampires and inherit their family legacies. Keaton must survive living with Sasinos, even as he does everything he can to drive her away. It doesn't matter that Sasinos' wickedness speaks to Keaton's own violent nature and tempts her to surrender to a life of darkness. She must find her sister and kill Sasinos at all costs. When a murder mirroring June's disappearance shakes Uxley, Keaton sinks further into the ruthless underworld of vampires, risking her very soul. There she discovers a centuries-old threat, and June could be at the center of it. To save her sister, Keaton must bring Uxley to its knees, and either break free from the horrors of her own actions or embrace the dark entanglements of love and the blood it requires. Okay. I am intrigued. This, honestly, the blurb was fine. I think the blurb was a bit over-explaining, but we're not rating blurbs on this stream. We're rating opening lines. And the opening lines of Immortal Dark by Tigest Gurma. Very good. Very, very good. Well played. Let me catch up on chat here. Yeah, Jackie-Ann, it is very interesting phrasing, right? It said the dean sat with her vampire in private conversation. It makes you ask questions, right? I'm sure it's intentionally worded that way. Tyler, what's up, my friend? You said you just checked my favorite trilogy because I want to make sure the first page is slapped hard. It does. Illuminae by Amy Kaufman. Okay. All right, we got some good suggestions here. Hold them for just one moment, y'all, because if you'll indulge me, I'm gonna be a little selfish. Actually, it's all regulars here, so you guys have heard Wriggly Little Hands before. So, are there any of my books that you haven't heard the opening for that you'd like me to read? So I got to slip a few of my own in here as well. Let me know. If we go here, you got Wriggly Little Hands as an option. Servant of Rage. Oh, Melissa says Servant of Rage right as I say it. The Far Wild. I think we've done that one. Oh yeah, you know what? Why am I doing this? We have all the covers right here, so helpfully laid out on stream. Here we go. There we go. We've done Wrigley a whole lot, so if there's a different one y'all want to hear the opening lines of, let me know. I see one vote for Servant of Rage, and then we can get back to the ones you're suggesting. 1 for Warden, 2 for Servant, 3 for Servant. All right, I think Servant of Rage is taking it. That's 4 votes out of the 11 people here. So, Jackie, and yes, I am writing more in Servant of Rage. I sold the whole trilogy, so we are finishing that trilogy. Let's see, there's my format for it. All right, so here's Servant of Rage. We'll do the opening lines. One of my more dramatic books. If the cover doesn't give that away. It's a little more intense. Let's dive into it. Oh boy, it's another small fonter. I don't know why some get formatted like this. Good thing I wrote this so I can actually remember the lines a little bit. Alright, here we go. Chapter 1 of Servant of Rage from the perspective of Subei. Any great inferno can be traced back to a single moment. A precipitous second where lightning tastes dry grass. Pitching the plan in the pre-dawn dark, Subei had been holding just such a moment in mind. Could envision that singular heartbeat where brilliant would meet bombastic, and all the world would know it was him who'd made it happen. Would know it was Subei, son of Kimu Khan, who'd struck flint to steel. Now that they were several days into said plan, well, it still looked to be a good one. There were just some finer details Subei had failed to consider. Like the special kind of ache that came from hiding in the back of a wagon as it jolted and clattered across the steppe, or the lack of fresh air beneath 2 layers of tarp and what that caused in the way of sweat pooling in his every crevice. Also, that tent poles made for terrible bedding. But no one had said catching bandits was comfortable work, especially not these days. Time was, a child could walk from one end of the Khanate to the other, a pot of gold balanced on their head and not a care in the world. Time was, the great Baji Khan had united the tribes and all the world had been brought to heel. Time was gone. Baji Khan had ascended to the world next, and his magic with him. No one had seen anything like it since, and in their absence the Khanate had crumbled. Didn't help that his descendants had fought over it like dogs at table scraps, fought until what had once been a feast fit for kings was torn to crumbs not worthy of a field mouse. And so the heirs of what had been the grandest conquest the world had ever known spent their days feuding, and in Subei's case, hunting bandits from the back of a wagon, clad in armor and soaking in a pool of his own sweat. So there's the dramatic opening for Servant of Rage. It's very much, you can tell it's a different tone than most of my work, right? This is a much older writing style of mine, back when I was doing more dark fantasy type stuff. Michaela, you like brilliant meets bombastic. Thank you. I worked really hard on that. I really wanted a repeating B sound when I wrote that. And I promise, guys, the line, any great inferno can be traced back to a single moment, is definitely not foreshadowing. That won't come back in the story at any point in time. Certainly not. Yeah, I think it's a bit of a long opening for my preference. But the book itself is a little denser. It's epic fantasy. It's darker. It kind of needs to hit that stride. But I like much more quicker, snappier openings these days. But it'll be fun to finish this series nonetheless. It is a story that I care a lot about. So we'll be finishing the next 2 books in it. Get a complete trilogy out of it. Thank you for suggesting it. I appreciate it, y'all. All right. I will scroll back to the titles that were previously suggested, but if you have another title you want to see, drop it in chat, and I'll pick one. So I see Illumine by Amy Kaufman is one that we have here. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by that. Thomas has been asking for Treasure Islands. We probably need to do that at some point. Hello, Blaze. Welcome in, my friend. Good to see you. And Melissa's been asking for the Institute, so probably need to do that too. Let's take some notes here. Oh, there it is. Tyler, you really like the audiobook for Illumine. Okay. All right, well, we'll do that one. I'm going to do Treasure Island, first of all, because I think it'd be fun to pull a classic back in here, y'all. I told you how opening line trends, what is in vogue, changes. And I think we'll see that here. This is going to be a full writing style change, but the opening lines, I'm sure, are going to be different, but similar to what we're used to seeing. All right, but let's get that cover up here. This is obviously a redone cover. There's, it's one of those books that's been published so many times. We've seen 100 different covers for it. But this is a newer one, I guess. Not my favorite. I've seen better ones, but I guess at least it's not a bearded pirate in a 3-cornered hat, right? All right, let's do the classic Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. 1. The Old Sea Dog at the Admiral Benbow. Benbow, I just turned him into a hobbit. Wow, Thomas, you got a copy from 1906. Very nice. Squire Trelawney, Dr. Livesey, and the rest of these gentlemen, having asked me to write down the whole particulars about Treasure Island, from the beginning to the end, keeping nothing back but the bearings of the island, and that only because there is still treasure not yet lifted, I take up my pen in the year of grace 17, and go back to the time when my father kept the Admiral Benbow Inn, and the brown old seaman, with the saber cut, first took up his lodging under our roof. Hoo boy, talk about a sentence to open up with, y'all. How many lines is that sentence? I mean, it's in book format, but like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I'm counting 9 lines on that sentence. That's when you read older stuff, you have to reprogram your mind to expect sentences to take a while to get to their point. Listen to the start of this. There's a lot of information conveyed, but good lord, is it a minefield of a sentence. Squire Trelawney, Dr. Livesey, and the rest of these gentlemen, having asked me to write down the whole particulars about Treasure Island, from the beginning to the end, keeping nothing back but the bearings of the island, and that only because there is still treasure not yet lifted, I take up my pen in the year of grace 17, and go back to the time when my father kept the Admiral Benbow Inn and the brown old seaman with the saber cut, and when the brown old seaman with the saber cut first took up lodgings under our roof. I remember him as if it were yesterday, as he came plodding to the inn door, his sea chest following behind him in a hand-barrow, a tall, strong, heavy, nut-brown man, his tarry pigtail falling over the shoulders of his soiled blue coat, his hands ragged and scarred with black broken nails, and the saber cut across one cheek, a dirty, livid white. I remember him looking around the cove and whistling to himself as he did so, and then breaking out in that old sea song that he sang so often afterwards. 15 men on the dead man's chest, yo-ho-ho, and a bottle of rum. And the high, old, tottering voice that seemed to have been tuned and broken at the capstan bars. Definitely a very different style of opening. I think to analyze it, yes, you're spot on, Jack-Ann. The writing style was very tangent-like. It was not afraid to take its time to get where it was going and have like a dozen little tangents on the way. If you think of a sentence as like a straight line, right, like a tree branch, what's in vogue now is shorter sentences, right to the point, maybe a little divergence, and if you do a long sentence, it's stylistic. You do it to vary sentence length. Older sentences, the way to do it was very much like you start, we're going to branch off this way. Okay, back to where we're at. We're going to branch off this way. Now we're going to go a little bit, branch off that way. And then the branches have branches. It's a very different style of writing. But fun at times. Lord of the Rings is kind of like that, Jack-Ann, but it's not as bad. It's a little more focused. But no, so what this is doing, I think, it's trying to get your attention by basically saying, and there was like this veneer back in the day for fiction writers, where like the author needed to justify why they were telling the story, at least at the minimum in a fictional sense. Like even Tolkien himself had this whole like thin veneer of, I'm translating this ancient book that I found that tells the foundation myth of some long lost people who, knew of Middle Earth, right? That's even his explanation for why he's telling the story. There was this thing that fiction writers back then just needed a veneer, a reason why they were telling the story. So we have that right off the bat with these gentlemen have asked me to write this down. And I think like analyzing it, what the author is doing is trying to entice readers by being like, this isn't my story, but some really well-traveled, interesting folks told me to write down their story. So I'm just here to relay their story to you. Which is a fun way to start, for sure. And, it gets interesting. It's not bad by any means. It's just very different. I could definitely enjoy reading more of this. I think it's a sort of book you need to settle into, though. It's not going to be quick and snappy. You need to kick back, take your time, breathe, relax, and read through it at an unhurried pace. Because I guarantee you the pace of this book will not move quick. Thank you for suggesting it, Thomas. I appreciate it, man. Fun to go back, dip back into some older fictional style. All right. Thomas, back then it was a fast-paced book. All right, I've got a little bit of a list going here, so let's grab that Illuminae book. I'm not aware of that. For Tylor, I believe it was. Did you say who wrote it? Let me put the title in and see if that's enough. Hey, how's it going, Sarge? Good to see you, my friend. Hope you're doing well. Okay, yeah, the Illuminae files. This is correct. Welcome in, my guy. You said I've had a huge following of late. Yeah, we've been popping off on stream lately. Today is a bit more quiet and chill, but I'm not minding it. I'm enjoying just hanging out with the regulars. So thanks for being here, y'all. Nice laid-back stream today. We'll take it a little bit easy, All right, the Illuminae Files 1 by Amy Kaufman. I really like the files underscore underscore 01. That makes it a bit more like, a computer file almost, a naming scheme. That's fun. I'm not sure what's going on with the cover art. I'm trying to figure out, what's the overall design. Okay, so it looks like it's almost like a typewritten page, sort of like it'd be like a redacted memo. And they're just playing with that style. like the New York Times bestseller is highlighted. The rest of the text looks like it's kind of like redacted, like a top secret something or other. So sick. Sarge, you said you started a passion project with your friend. Dude, rock on. That's awesome, man. What are you doing? What are you working on? I'm glad you're excited about it. I've been rocking my passion projects in here too, dude. I'm like 20 pages in now on various things. Absolutely loving it. It's wonderful to have a passion project. All right, let's see. So you said the real story starts on page 2? Interesting. So what is page 1? Kind of like a little opening of some sort. This is an interesting internal art on the pages. Like, it literally makes it look like an early 2000s web page. That's fun. I'm glad that they're playing in the space, you know? All right. Well, you've requested specifically that I start on page 2, so on page 2 we will start. Interviewer, tell me about yesterday. Katie Grant. I was in class when it started. This is going to sound stupid, but I broke up with my boyfriend that morning, and he was right there on the other side of the room. I'm staring out the window and coming up with all the things I should say to the jerk when these ships fly right overhead and all the windows start shaking. Interviewer. Did you know something was up? Katie Grant. No, you don't jump straight to an invasion. The Corinza settlement wasn't exactly legal, but we still got traffic around the mine and refinery. I figured it was an ore carrier coming in too low and went back to plotting my idiot ex's downfall. Interviewer. When did you become aware of the invasion? Katie Grant. That would be when all the sirens started screaming. Some bright spark, who's probably dead now, sounded the spaceport alarms. The Defiant, that was our WUC protection ship, had transmitted an alert to let us know unfriendly people with big guns had arrived. And, interviewer, how do you know the Defiant transmitted a warning? Katie Grant, I'm good with computers. I wanted to know what was going on at the port, so I took a look. Interviewer, you evacuated at that stage? Katie Grant, you make it sound way more organized than it was. Interviewer, how was it? Katie Grant, all kittens and rainbows, apart from the screaming and the explosions. Okay, interesting. It's an interesting style to start. I want to see what page 1 is too, though. Okay, interesting. So is this like YA? Is this like YA sci-fi? I'm thinking. I'm seeking a little more context. Katie thought breaking up with Ezra was the worst thing she'd ever been through. That was before her planet was invaded. Now, with enemy fire raining down on them, Katie and Ezra are forced to fight their way onto one of the evacuating craft with an enemy warship in hot pursuit. But the warship could be the least of their problems. A deadly plague has broken out and it's mutating with terrifying results. The fleet's AI, which should be protecting them, may actually be their biggest threat, and nobody in charge will say what's really going on. As Katie plunges into a web of data hacking to get to the truth, it's clear only one person can help bring it all to light. Ezra. Told through a fascinating dossier of hacked documents, including emails, schematics, military files, IMs, medical reports, interviews, and more, Illuminae is the first book in a heart-stopping, high-octane trilogy about lives interrupted, the price of truth, and the courage of everyday heroes. Interesting. I've never heard of this book, but it's a interesting format how it's telling the story. It says reading age 14 to 17, so yeah, very much YA. Did I see a pub date in here? Did I just miss it? There it is, 2017. Tyler says they'd call it Battlestar Galactica meets News Reporter. Interesting. All right, well, let's go back to the opening. So that interview structure is very interesting. To start. It kind of drops you right into the midst of what's happening. Oh, you say it's not YA, Tyler? 14 to 17 age range would make me think it's YA, but I haven't read the book, so I don't know. So I didn't expect it to be sci-fi right off the bat. Like I like the cover, but seeing the cover, it made me think it'd be set in the modern world, not a sci-fi world. So that threw me for a bit of a loop, but I love this interior design on it. It's pretty cool. And the interviewee format is an interesting way to start. I guess it fits the theme of the book pretty well. And I like the little bit of personality we see from the main character. Like, I'm assuming main character. Yeah, we read the back cover blurb. She's the main character. when he asked how the evacuation was, and she says it was all kittens and rainbows, apart from the screaming and explosions. It's a good line. Honestly, and again, these authors have sold way more books than me, so I shouldn't be judging. But I think that how was the evacuation reply, all kittens and rainbows except for the screaming and explosions, would be a killer opening to start this interview. I think that'd be a pretty good way to start it. Thank you for suggesting it. Appreciate that, Tylor, and welcome in. Blaze Gaming, you said slow progress. Oh, no. What was it? There was an answer to my question. Where is it? There it is, Sarge. You said we're making a 3D multiplayer video game. We did a proof of concept with art and code. Dude, rock on, Sarge. It's a heck of a task, man, but good job. Good luck. Keep at it, man. Enjoy it while you're doing it. That sounds awesome. What's it about? What's the basic pitch of the game? Oh, you made your own engine over the last 2 weeks? Holy cow, Sarge. You guys are going for it. Jack Ann told through a dossier of hacked documents. Interesting. Yeah, that is an interesting way for Illuminae to tell its story. Thank you, Meg. You said I'm a great reader. You'd be stutter-stepping reading out loud. I try to do a good job with it. It's a little bit challenging at times, but we get there. Just gotta keep my mouth from drying up. All right, y'all. I'm going to go grab the Institute now because Melissa's been asking for that one and we haven't gotten to it. So let's do the Institute by Stephen King, which I believe, Melissa, you said this is one of his less dark and messed up stories, a little more YA. Oh boy, I love the cover art. How interesting. How interesting. I don't really know what to make of this cover, aside from it immediately caught my eye, and it's making me ask a lot of questions here. I don't know how well y'all can see it. Yeah, you can see it fine. It's a silhouette of a boy sitting on his bed in his bedroom, seemingly, but then outside of it, you realize the bedroom is inside of a train car. I don't know if that's literal or if that is a metaphor. It's certainly interesting. Well, oh, how many reviews had this had? Yeah, there you go, 61,000. Just orders of magnitude above, the range that most authors would be at. Just insane. All right. Hey, Bert, good morning, dude. Hey, Bert, thank you for posting your art progress in the Discord, my guy. Really digging seeing the progress. It's super cool watching, your lessons and progression. So, keep it going, my guy. Rock on. Sarge, you said your game is an online zombie survival game. Players wake up, fight, and survive. Don't die, or you'll turn. All right, dude. Rock on. Like DayZ vibes, kind of. But DayZ's only like 15 years old at this point, something like that. So maybe time for a new one. Good luck, my dude. Keep us updated on the progress. That's super cool. Super, super cool. Heck of a challenge. Good luck. Let's do Chapter 1 of The Institute. See what we think. Again, with the small text. Half an hour after Tim Jameson's Delta flight was scheduled to leave Tampa for the bright lights and tall buildings of New York, it was still packed at the gate. Can we talk about how weird it is that this is set in my hometown initially? And it sounds like it's leaving it, but that's a little weird. I don't think I've ever read a book set in Tampa before. Half an hour after Tim Jameson's Delta flight was scheduled to leave Tampa for the bright lights and tall buildings of New York, it was still parked at the gate. When a Delta agent and a blonde woman with a security badge hanging around her neck entered the cabin, there were unhappy premonitory, that's a new word for me, premonitory murmurings from the packed residents of economy class. "May I have your attention, please?" the Delta guy called. "How long's the delay gonna be?" someone asked. "Don't sugarcoat it." "The delay should be short, and the captain wants to assure you all that your flight will arrive approximately on time. We have a federal officer who needs to board, however, so we'll need someone to give up his or her seat." A collective groan went up, and Tim saw several people unlimber. King is throwing some strange words at me today. A collective groan went up, and Tim saw several people unlimber their cell phones in case of trouble. That's such a weird way to say that. I don't even... Weird. Learn something every day, I guess. There had been trouble in these situations before. Delta Airlines is authorized to offer a free ticket to New York on the next outbound flight, which will be tomorrow morning at 6:45 a.m. Another groan went up. Someone said, "Just shoot me." The functionary continued, undeterred. "You'll be given a hotel voucher for tonight, plus $400. It's a good deal, folks. Who wants it?" He had no takers. The security blonde said nothing, only surveyed the crowded economy class cabin with the all-seeing but somehow lifeless eyes. $800, the Delta guy said, plus the hotel voucher and the complimentary ticket. "Guy sounds like a quiz show host," grunted a man in the row ahead of Tim's. There were still no takers. $1,400, and still none. Tim found this interesting, but not entirely surprising. It wasn't just because a 6:45 flight meant getting up before God, either. That's a good line. Most of his fellow economy class passengers were family groups, headed home after visiting various Florida attractions, couples sporting beachy keen sunburns, and beefy, red-faced, pissed-off-looking guys who probably had business in the Big Apple, worth considerably more than $1,400. Someone far in the back called, "Throw in a Mustang convertible and a trip to Aruba for two, and you can have both our seats." This sally provoked laughter. It didn't sound terribly friendly. Okay, well, you said that I read well aloud, and then Stephen King said, "Hold my beer. I'm going to throw all these strange words and sentence structure at him." Interesting. I wish we got a little more plot in the opening here, but it sets a scene really well. I just would like to know a little more about what's going to happen in the story. This cover was so interesting to me. I would like to get a hint at what's happening in the story more. We read pretty far in there, and I didn't feel like we got very much plot. But he definitely painted the scene on the plane well. And then threw some weird sentences at me. But yeah, I have no clue where it's going, so let me read the back, because I want to know. In the middle of the night, in a house on a quiet street in suburban Minneapolis, intruders silently murder Luke Ellis's parents and load him into a black SUV. Okay, there we go. Now it's typical Stephen King. The operation takes less than 2 minutes. Luke will wake up at the Institute in a room that looks just like his own, except there's no window. And outside his door are other doors, behind which are other kids with special talents, telekinesis and telepathy, who got to this place in the same way Luke did. Kalisha, Nick, George, Iris, and 10-year-old Avery Dixon. They are all in front half. Others, Luke learns, graduated to back half. Like the Roach Motel, Kalisha says. You check in, but you don't check out. In this most sinister of institutions, the director, Mrs. Sigsby, and her staff are ruthlessly dedicated to extracting from these children the force of their extra-normal gifts. There are no scruples here. If you go alone, you get tokens for the vending machines. If you go along, you get tokens for the vending machines. If you don't, punishment is brutal. As each new victim disappears to back half, Luke becomes more and more desperate to get out and get help, but no one has ever escaped the Institute. Ooh, boy, that sounds deeply unsettling. There's a reason I don't read King, man. That's just like, that's a good plot idea. It just feels to me. I'm sure it's good, though. Yeah. All right. Stephen King doing Stephen King things. Yeah, I'm not sure how the opening... It's a good question, Jack. And how does the blurb relate to the opening? I'm not sure. But King's always taken his time to get where he's going. That's pretty much his style. And he had enough hits early on that he just gets to write whatever he wants. So you always got to consider that. Like, you have to consider the author when thinking about the opening. King doesn't have to be incredibly fast with his openings. He has so many readers at this point that, like, his books are going to sell. And his dedicated fans, there's enough of them out there that he can release a book. They're going to make it profitable just from his dedicated core audience. That being said, could just be an appeal thing. Not my style of reading. But this King has earned the right to do what he wants at this point. All right, y'all, let's do one more today. So if you got a title, drop it on in here, and we'll do one more. I'll give it a moment for titles to come in, and then we'll pick one. Just gonna pick what, I don't know, sounds the most interesting. Oh, you know what? Actually, McGorham, have we done one of yours today? Have we done one of yours so far? I don't recall. I don't think we have. Do you remember? Not yet? Okay, well then, I apologize, Super Kami Guru. Megorium has asked like 3 or 4 times now, and we haven't gotten to it, so we'll do Megorium's. Cold Storage by David Kep? I don't know how to pronounce that. I should know, probably. Wait, have we done this one? I don't think we have. The cover just kind of looked familiar for a minute. Alright, Cold Storage by David Kep, I think? Screenwriter of Jurassic Park. Alright, well you have my attention. You have my attention now. It's a cool cover. I love the styling on the font. Super cool. Alright, Cold Storage, a novel. Skip the praise. Oh, that's ominous. What is that? Is that like mold? Like growing in there? Mildew? Something like that? Interesting. Alright, Chapter 1 of Cold Storage. After they'd burned their clothes, shaved their heads, and scrubbed themselves until they bled, Roberto Diaz and Trini Romano were allowed back into the country. Even then, they hadn't felt entirely clean, only that they had done everything they could, and the rest was up to fate. They were in a government-issue sedan now, rattling down I-73 just a few miles from the storage facility at the Atchison mines. They followed close behind the open-air cargo truck in front of them, tight enough that no civilian vehicle could go and get in between them. Trini was in the front passenger seat of the sedan, her feet up on the dashboard, a posture that always infuriated Roberto, who was behind the wheel. "Because it leaves footprints," he told her, for the 100th time. "It's dust," Trini replied, also for the 100th time. "I wipe it right off. Look." She made a half-assed attempt to wipe her footprints off the dashboard. "Yeah, but you don't, Trini. You don't wipe it off. You just kind of smear it around with your hand, and then I wipe it off when we return it to the pool. Or I forget and I leave it, and somebody else has to do it. I don't like making work for other people." Trini looked at him with her heavy-lidded eyes, the ones that didn't believe half of what they saw. Those eyes and what they could see were the reason she was a lieutenant colonel at 40, but her inability to refrain from commenting on what she saw was the reason she'd get no further. Trini had no filter and no interest in acquiring one. She stared at him for a thoughtful moment, took a long drag off the Newport between her fingers, and blew a cloud of smoke out the side of her mouth. "I accept, Roberto." He looked at her. "Huh? Your apology for back there. That's why you're bitching at me. You bitch at me because you don't know how to say you're sorry. So I'll save you the trouble. I accept your apology." Okay, there's your hook. There's your hook. They're making you ask. They want you to know. They want you to wonder what's coming next. Ask yourself questions about it. I like the opening hook even better, though. After they'd burned their clothes, shaved... I keep saying burned their clothes. Burned their clothes. After they'd burned their clothes, shaved their heads, and scrubbed themselves until they bled, Roberto Diaz and Trini Romano were allowed back into the country. Even then, they hadn't felt entirely clean, only that they had done everything they could, and the rest was up to fate. Interesting. It makes me really want to know, like, that hook is very good, and it makes me want to know, what are we talking about here? Like, why did they have to take all those precautions? And where are they going? It's a little bit prose dense, a little bit explainy after that. But I trust that it's going somewhere good. Wouldn't mind if it was a bit more snappy off the bat, but a little different. Meg, you're giving me a spoiler there. Space fungus. Okay. Sounds about right. Kind of also tracks with this stylized page here that has like mold spores or something growing on it. Ken, what's up, my guy? You're at work, but we are waiting to start. All right, well, enjoy the time before you start. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it. We just finished reading the opening lines of Cold Storage by David Kep. I hope I'm saying that right. Let me read the back of it now, because I really want to know. When Pentagon bioterror operative Roberto Diaz was sent to investigate a suspected biochemical attack, he found something far worse, a highly mutative organism capable of extinction-level destruction. He contained it and buried it in cold storage deep beneath a little-used military repository. Now, after decades of festering in a forgotten sub-basement, the specimen has found its way out. and is on a lethal feeding frenzy. Only Diaz knows how to stop it. He races across the country to help two unwitting security guards, one an ex-con, the other a single mother. Over one harrowing night, the unlikely trio must figure out how to quarantine this horror again. All they have is luck, fearlessness, and a mordant sense of humor. Will that be enough to save all of humanity? Okay, rock on. Thank you for recommending it. And right on schedule, TikTok says I am inactive. Hold please as I tell it I am not. There we go. Back at it. Okay, Cold Storage. Interesting opening. I like the hook. It's a little bit prose dense, but then again, so is Jurassic Park, which is one of my favorite novels. So you can't hold that against it, right? The if you do, we've done Jurassic Park on stream. It does not work well in the opening lines format. Some books just don't, you know. But yeah, thank you for suggesting it. And y'all, thanks for hanging out with me today. I appreciate it. Bit of a chill stream today. We're just kind of hanging out with the regulars. Thanks for being here with me, guys. Hope you had fun. Make sure you come back on Friday, because, guys, you know what's happening. Friday, Fantasy Map Friday, but we finished the map last week. So what do we do now? What's our new map going to be? What world will it be based on? We're going to do another one from one of my books? We can do something original again? What do you think, y'all? Think about it. I'm going to ask on Friday, and we're going to figure it out, because I genuinely don't know. We had fun with our past one. It's this one up in here. But we got to do a new one now. So come back on Friday, 7 a.m. Central Time. I will be here, and we're going to figure out what we are doing for the new map. In the meantime, y'all, thank you for being here. If you haven't given it a look, I encourage you to go to my bio and check out Wriggly Little Hands. It is my newest book. It's a comedy fantasy about goblins on a road trip. It's very silly. You can get it on Amazon in any format you want. It supports me and supports the stream. This is what I do for a living. So please, if you haven't grabbed a copy, check it out. I'd appreciate it. Y'all, thank you for hanging out with me today. I appreciate it. As usual, a very special thanks to Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com for the use of his songs Farm, Manor, Cottages, and Northern Glade, which provided our background music today. As well, an extra special thank you to community member Raffi the engineer. Thank you, Raffi, for providing our newest background song, Midnight at the Round Table. Raffi composed that song just for stream. That's pretty nuts. I'm still wowed by that, Raffi. Thank you. Of course, a shout out to my excellent mods, Melissa Lee 28, Raffi the Engineer, One Happy Harpy, Simp 1X, other name wasn't available, aka Slendy, Alicia T, and Aaron Winnick. Thank you guys for keeping the vibes rolling. Luckily, it's a wonderful community here. There's not too much work to be done. I appreciate all you viewers that keep things nice, fun, breezy, chill around here. We have a good time together. Lastly, if you've enjoyed the stream, please give me a follow so we can hang out on the next one. I would love to see you again, and that will be Friday at 7 a.m. Central Time. Alicia, thank you for posting the Discord. Please feel free to do that anytime. I was actually going to do it after this, but anytime you think of it, please do. Feel free to shout it out. Y'all, if you want to hang out with us outside of stream, there's the Discord link. Alicia just dropped it. Thank you for that, Lisa. Alicia. Please join us there. We'd love to have you. But otherwise, folks, thanks for hanging out. Been a good stream today. And I look forward to catching you on the next one. Have a good Wednesday, everybody. Hump day. Let's make it through. And I will see you on Friday. Be excellent to each other, guys. Catch you next time. Peace out.